Now I have the great honor of introducing our commencement speaker, Raul Midon, class of 1984 from Santa Fe Prep. So, twice nominated for Best Vocal Jazz Album at the Grammys in 2017 and 2018, Raul has performed live across the previous 30 days in the following cities: New York, Baltimore, that's his adopted hometown, Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, and Phoenix. So the last thing he needed was an opportunity to pad his frequent flyer count when we invited him here at the request of the seniors, especially after his original flight yesterday from Baltimore was canceled. Raul, thank you for persevering to get here today and for embracing this invitation from the senior class. Welcome.
Good morning, and I am Raul Midon, and I'm so honored to be speaking to you today. This was my high school, and what an amazing journey. So I'm gonna kind of pick up a little bit on what he was talking about. I have some adventure that has happened in my life since I graduated from this place. And I'm going to talk about some turning points, and this place was one of those. Everybody here is at a turning point in their life. This is one of those times when it's really kind of off the cliff, and it's a great time. So the first thing that just segues beautifully into this is something I call betting against the odds, right? You know, I'm a blind guy from rural New Mexico. I was not supposed to be doing this. You know, playing guitar all over the world, working with the best musicians in the world. And I didn't go to a conservatory. I came here. Yeah. So the way that it happened was I was a student at the New Mexico School for the Visually Handicapped, and while there I became president of the student council. And as in that capacity, I ended up representing the school all over the state. And I realized that the education I was getting was not really cutting it. I was in any subject. And I began to wonder how I was going to make up the deficit. I happened to have a friend who was going here. I went to a class here before I decided to go to school here. It was a class being taught by a teacher named Gene Harrell. And it was to calculate, that he had some kind of a graph to calculate how much water flows through the Pecos River each minute or something like that. It was pretty complicated. I remember thinking, whoa. And I came back to the next day, and he thought that I was going to be going to class, so he brought a graph board that he had made out of wood. He saw that we were there. He said, how are these blind guys going to do this? And he brought this graph board, and I thought, whoa, that's extraordinary, you know, for somebody to have that initiative. I mean, nobody here was trained to teach blind kids, right? I mean, that could be a pretty heavy burden. And yet everybody here said, let's do the right thing by these guys. And so I really, really appreciate that. And I really appreciate the school for doing that. And so, of course, we said, well, we want to go here. And there was, you know, one problem, that it was just really expensive. And an extraordinary thing happened. Somebody in this community came up with a scholarship with all the money for my brother and me to go here, and they did it anonymously. And to this day, I don't know who it is. If you're here, thank you very much. This was a turning point. This was one of those crossroads that would change the course of my life forever. And so what did I learn? Well, I learned how to take notes. You say, you're take notes? Let me tell you, when you're blind, how do you take notes in class? Right? You can't use a pencil and paper. In those days, we just had these really clunky Braille machines that made a lot of noise. And so I learned that I had to take a tape recorder. Somewhere, I still have a tape of every single class I had at prep. Every single one. And what we would do is, and I have to acknowledge at this point Miss Odessa, who is still here, she provided... Yeah, incredible, because of course, when you have a tape recorder, you then have to listen to it, and you have to talk into it, so we needed a space to do that. So she let us take over the library, so that we could, in between class or whatever, talk into this tape recorder. So it was amazing. The other thing I learned, and this also goes into what was said earlier, I learned how to write. And I learned how to read here. And we had, in my day, summer reading, ladies and gentlemen. We had a test on the first day of my senior year on Robert Pirsig's The Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance and the Iliad and the Odyssey. That was the first day. And that habit of learning how to read and write in a deeper way helped me become a producer, an engineer, and a songwriter. And it helped me for the rest of my life. So it was an amazing thing. Next thing I want to talk about is most of you are going to go to college, right? It's awesome. College is awesome. You're about to enter the best networking situation you're ever going to find in your life. You're going to meet the most interesting and wildly diverse group of people you'll ever encounter. Different countries, different races, different points of view. Know it, cherish it, appreciate it. Because after college, when you start working, your circles narrow a lot. You end up hanging out with your friends, your wife's friends, and people you work with, and that's it. When you're in college, when you're in college, you meet people who are doing all kinds of stuff in every walk of life and with all kinds of ways of looking at the world. And it's an amazing time. In my case, for example, 10 years after I went to the University of Miami Music School, all the people I worked with, most of them were graduates of the University of Miami Music School. And besides the very unglamorous bar and restaurant gigs that I was doing, I was doing singing for hire on hundreds of records as a background singer. From Mark Anthony to Julio Iglesias. I did commercials from McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Mitsubishi. I had one that was, the Sports Authority! It was horrible. But it paid the bills. So I wasn't, doing what I wanted, but I was pursuing, I was still doing music, and what I would get paid doing that was like 6 months worth of doing bar gigs, one session. So it was really, really wonderful thing that I did, and I learned so much in the studio. And then I got the ultimate gig for hire that, once again, out of my being here being at college and networking. I joined Shakira's band. Yeah, pretty wild, right? I joined Shakira's band, and for some stupid reason, I colored my hair blonde. You can actually see that on YouTube. I think there's a couple of times when I did the Jay Leno show or David Letterman or Rosie O'Donnell, and my hair is blonde. None of the girls did anything to their hair. I don't know what the guys all decided they were going to color their hair. So for the next 2 years, I traveled playing and singing with the band. And, I had done nothing but recording sessions where you come home. So what did I learn? How to tour. I never had toured. And as a blind person, there's things that you don't think about, until you're in the situation. I learned to ask for help, like I didn't have an assistant. I was by myself. People in the band were helping me, but I had to ask, hey, do I have a stain on my shirt? Do my socks match? I mean, this is pop music. You can't go around looking like crap, right? So, I also learned that despite everyone's best intentions, I still needed an assistant. And I realized that. So I think it was 2000, we were doing the first ever Latin Grammys. It was live television. There was a tune called Ojos Así, in which I played guitar, sang, clapped my hands. I did all kinds of stuff in that band. And they had a really hard time replacing me. And so, this was a song that we had played for the past 2 years on tour. And so we rehearsed it for 10 days to do TV, which was just beyond me. But we did it, and we got to spend time in LA. And, So the last day before the actual TV show, the last rehearsal, I missed it. I got some kind of food poisoning or something. I missed the rehearsal. But I wasn't worried about it because I'd done the song 1,000 times, right? Well, there we were on live TV. The song ends, and all of a sudden, I feel this big flame, right? And I turn around and start running. This is on live TV. Luckily, we're in a cage. I don't know if you can really see it. And then they're like, Raul, stop! Nobody told me about the pyrotechnic thing that they were going to do at the end of the song, because I wasn't at the last rehearsal. So these are the kind of things. And I learned, you know what? Maybe I should have an assistant. And then I want to talk about, this is as has been said, this is a time when you're going to make a lot of decisions. And I want to talk about finding and listening to your inner vision of the world. This is how things get invented and discovered. People that are confident enough to listen and nurture their particular way of perceiving the world. Everybody has a little bit different way of perceiving the world. Listen to that, nurture that, because it will allow you to contribute something new and different to the world. I promise you. When I was here, it's sad to say, being in high school is hard, right? And being different in high school sucks in a lot of ways, right? And I was different. There was no getting around it, right? And in some ways, I just wanted so much not to be blind. I just wanted to see like everybody else. And now, all these years later, my Grammy-nominated record is called Badass and Blind. Right? So, don't be afraid to be different. So, one of the ways I can illustrate this, I got a chance to work with two legends of music, Herbie Hancock and Stevie Wonder. And there's video of this. You know, you can't make stuff up anymore with the internet, right? So we were working on the album Possibilities. There's a documentary of this. And the song was Stevie Wonder's I Just Called to Say I Love You, right? So yeah, it's kind of, you know, when I first got the song, I was like, this is one of the cheesier ones. Why can't I get Superstition or Higher Ground? But, you know, but it was Stevie Wonder and Herbie Hancock, so I'm doing it. Now, the musical setting of the song was completely different from the original. Maybe some of you have heard it. The original is sort of up-tempo and happy, you know, and this one was slow, in a much higher key, and very harmonically dense. And what I mean by that is a lot of chords, so what we call reharmonization. So I prepared myself, you know, to sing a slow version of the original. And so I just called to say I love you, right? Kind of a slow version of Stevie Wonder, right? So check this out. We're in the studio in New York. Big time, right? And I'm in an isolated vocal booth. My wife and a producer friend of ours and the engineer are in the control room. Herbie and Greg Fillinganes, his musical director, are in LA, and we're connected up by ISDN. So I'm doing this. My wife and the people in the control room are watching their reaction to what I'm doing, and they are not digging it. And they're not telling me, right? I just think, I guess it's going okay. They're not saying anything, right? Finally, my wife, God bless her, she says, somebody's got to tell Raul, this is not fair, you know. So my producer friend, Joe Martin, says, hey, meet the guys in LA. I'm going to go talk to Raul in the booth. He went into the booth and said one thing, one sentence that changed the course of the session. He said, Raul, this is I just called to say I love you, and the girl's not home. All of a sudden I realized, oh, this is a sad song. This is not I just called, right? This is no, you're staying to celebrate. This is sad. And it changed, that's what ended up on the record. And were it not for that, and I realized from that, you can't be Stevie Wonder. Right? That's the blind guy Stevie Wonder, that's some low-hanging fruit, man. Yeah, be yourself. And that's what has been successful for me in my career. So the last thing I want to talk about, in these days especially, I call it do the right thing. And I want to talk a little bit about ethics. I want to talk about not letting fear make your decisions. And here's another turning point. Maybe you're wondering what happened to that Shakira gig I had. It was such a cool gig, such a sweet gig. Well, when I wasn't on the road with Shakira, I was pursuing my songwriting ambitions. And I got a chance right after 9/11 to do a show that Warner Chappell, the publishing company, was presenting. And it was a fundraiser for the Red Cross. And they got songwriters from all over the country to come and play their songs. They sold tickets and the money went to the Red Cross. And so they got me as the last of 25 performers, right? I was the last one. And I got to tell you, people, there was some really bad songs. I mean, after 9/11, everybody wrote, there was fire in the sky. Oh, it was just horrible, some of it. Just really. So I wrote this song, Everybody Can Be Somebody. And I played it, and I brought the house down. And then we were hanging out with the president of the company. Here's my wife again. The president says, oh, I'm sitting right there, but he says, he's fantastic, right? My wife says, well, if he's so fantastic, why don't you sign him? So the next day we started negotiations. I ended up signing a $100,000 publishing deal with Warner Chappell, which allowed me to move to New York, which is something I realized I wanted to do. I realized I didn't want to be a singer for hire for the rest of my life. Now check this out. Once again, betting against the odds. I'm now 36 years old. I don't recommend moving to New York at 36. But I did it. And I did it. So one of the results of this deal with Warner Chappell was that I was told that they wanted me to do a showcase for record companies in New York. Well, the problem was I had a Shakira gig at the same time. So I told them, I got to do this showcase. They said, that's fine. That's cool. When I got back, I found out I was fired. So I moved to New York, tripled my rent, and lost my only gig. Not looking good, right? Well, the song I wrote that I played at that thing sealed my record deal. I ended up playing it for Reef Martin, who was at that time he had just left Atlantic Records and was now at Blue Note Manhattan Records. And I ended up signing a deal. And then I made one of the few smart business decisions I've made in my life. Before the record came out, I bought back my publishing. Because this lawyer that we had put a clause in there called buyback, which no musician is going to take advantage of because it was $91,000 to buy your publishing back. But at that time, it was before the recession, so I got a loan, and everybody thought I was crazy. Before the record even comes out, I got $91,000, and I spent it on something intangible, which was my rights to my work. And the best decision I've ever made. I go on Cobalt now every day, which is the publishing website on my phone, and I see my income. Feel the fear and do it anyway, right? I mean, this was, it ended up working out. And I guess what I want to end with, I hope that some of what I'm saying will resonate with you, with some risky decisions, but decisions that I was very clear on. I ended up making a career in which I live my dream every day. And I do what I want. I work for myself. And what I hope for all of you is that you go forth knowing anything is possible. Man, if I can do this, if I can engineer a record without seeing, with no mouse, if any of you have messed around with digital audio, think about doing that without a mouse. Anything is possible. I hope that you discover your gifts and make the world a better place. Thank you so much. Used to sit and worry about the future. Worrying about the future don't change the past. Used to think tomorrow would be better. But now I know that I'm doing the best that I can. I'm just a man trying to find the reasons why I stand. Took some time to realize that I am what I am. And I wanna be rich, I wanna be happy, and and live inside a love that shines bright enough to last a lifetime. Wanna be rich, more than a fantasy, like the winds and climb, 'cause it's all a state of mind. Wake up in the morning and I turn the pages, don't understand what's going down. Everybody's acting so outrageous. It's gonna take a lot of love to turn things around, and I'm just a man trying to find the reasons why I stand. Took some time to realize that I am what I am. I wanna be rich, I wanna be happy, and live inside a love that shines bright enough to last a lifetime. I wanna be rich, more than a fantasy, by the winds incline, 'cause it's all a state of mind. I hear people talking about going to heaven. Grab a little bit of heaven right here on earth. Sometimes leading healing times. I was sad, now I'm feeling fine. It's just thinking and forgetting. It makes this life worth living. Makes this life worth living. I wanna be rich, I wanna be happy, and live inside a love that shines bright enough to last a lifetime. I wanna be rich, more than a fantasy, like the winds and cry, like the winds and cry.